Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. Hello, welcome back to Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. I'm your host, Big Les. This is the last episode of the ranking series, heading into the season preview series tomorrow. We've got our first episode of the season preview series kicking off with the Cast Patrol. That's coming out on Monday. On Wednesday, we have the Paracave podcast. And then on Friday, let's just have a look here. I've got it written down on my list. Forgive me. On Friday, we have another podcast as well, which hasn't been announced yet. But we are recording the 3 in the middle. So we've recorded 1, 2, and 6. But we've got 3, 4, and 5 left to record in regards to the parts, which will be announced very shortly on the podcast. We're going to record those tomorrow as well when the Cast Patrol episode comes out. There'll be a fun few bit of reels as well coming out in relation to that very, very shortly. But let's get stuck in. We've got the hookers and lock forwards to rank today. It's our top 5 by the end of 2025. Not for the 2025 season, but by the end of 2025. Who are going to be the best top 5 in each position? That's what we're going through in these sort of lists. Make sure you go back and check all of the other positions as well. They're all live now on the YouTube, also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to all of those. But let's get stuck in. Hookers, let's get into it. Our top 5 hookers by the end of the 2025 season. Sitting at number 5 here, I am going a little bit left field, but I do think that this team, the Sharkies, they are going to go quite well this year. Blake Brayley. We sort of made a call at the start of 2024 saying that he might be a sniff for Origin. I think himself, Mitch Kenny, these sort of guys, they will be sniffs for Origin this year. It sounds like Mitch Kenny, which we'll talk about in a second, was invited to a Blues opening dinner or lunch or something like that himself, and along with another player who I forget who that was now. But it sounds like Mitch Kenny, he is in the thoughts of Laurie Daly. So definitely one to keep an eye on there as a bit of an Origin smoky. But Blake Brayley, really like him. I think he's one of the more crafty hookers in the competition. He's one of the only hookers in the competition, other than obviously Reid Marnie, maybe Reece Robson, that I'm happy with playing 80 minutes because I know that they can handle it. And Blake Brayley, he is one of the more durable guys. He is such a great defender. He's also a really good attacker, really crafty to dummy half, great passing game, and just suits the game of what they're going to be playing in 2025, that fast style of footy off the back of Hines playing that hybrid roaming 6 and 1 role. Obviously with Trindle there running the side this year, I think it's going to be a lot better for the Sharkies, and I think Blake Brayley is going to reap the rewards of that. He's going to look very good in the number 9 jersey, where in past seasons he has been very good, but he just hasn't been noticed in that team. Going into number 4, look, this team can go either really well or, continue to be really shit. And that's just being very, very honest. That is the West Tigers and Api Coruscant. I think that Api Coruscant, regardless of really how the Tigers are going, he always seems to stand out, put in 110% for that side. So Api Coruscant, looking forward to seeing how he goes this year. Really strong year in store for him, in my opinion, if he really grasps it with both hands and just has a big season off the back of Luai going there as well. Rekindling those combinations as well. But also building new ones too, and obviously getting used to what will be a little bit of a more fast-moving side with Luai there roaming in the number 7, both sides of the ruck. I think both of these halves, Galvin and Luai, they're not really going to have set sides of the field. I think they're going to both roam both sides of the ruck, both take the footy where it needs to be and combine in those areas. So, I'm excited to see how the West Tigers play, and a big proponent, if they go well, is going to be Api Coruscant. His leadership there through the middle, co-captain with Jerome Luai. Really excited to see how he plays. Really crafty. Definitely one of the better aged hookers in the competition, Api Coruscant. Mitch Kenny's at number 3. Look, as I said before, was obviously invited to what was a lunch or dinner for New South Wales Blues. I'm really, really excited for that. I think that, he's been one of the more underrated hookers in the competition for a while. I think that he's always sort of been in this list by the end of the year, but no one's really said it. Mitch Kenny, really, really strong defender. Obviously, just gets the ball in the right spots every time. Does all the little things and the hard things that no one really notices. He's just such a gun, Mitch Kenny. And if he does make Origin, whether that be off the bench or whether that be starting, depending on the form of Reece Robson, I'm super excited to see how he goes in that arena. I think that he would kill it in that arena too. Big hits, obviously getting the ball where it needs to be, really crafty. I'm excited for Mitch Kenny going into next year with the Penny Panthers, and obviously Nathan Cleary, who's going to be taking a lot more reins in that side, with Blaise Talungi playing a little bit more of a running role. Really excited to see how that goes. Reece Robson at number 2, I think that he is probably the second best hooker in the competition. I love watching him all the time. He is just such a weapon. Just with the ball in hands, he's crafty, defensively solid. When he gets out of dummy half and obviously goes and plays that second phase footy, 2 out of dummy half, breaks the line. He's got such great speed too. So he's a very well-rounded hooker, Reece Robson. He's going to be a great signing for the Roosters when he goes there. But this year for the Cowboys, who I think, again, is a side that could go either really well or really poorly. He's going to stand out for sure regardless, Reece Robson. And obviously, if he makes New South Wales and Australia again, it's not going to be a surprise to anyone. Number 1, and a guy that I think is going to be at the top of this list for the rest of his career, or, at least for the next few years, is Harry Grant. Again, just a guy that does all the little things right and, it does tend to go unnoticed, particularly in the final series. He was so pivotal for that Melbourne Storm side. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he goes this year and, just getting that spine together, Pappy, Hughes, Munster, Grant, just getting them together for more than a few games here and there, obviously, whether it be injury or international origin duties. They haven't had a full season together yet. So just trying to get this spine together for what is a full year, obviously, regardless of origin, not including origin, a full rugby league calendar year together. I think is going to be really beneficial if they are to go on a bit of a premiership run here. So Harry Grant, I think that he is going to be a huge factor in Melbourne's premiership success moving forward. And then honourable mentions, we've got a few written down here. I have got for hookers, I've got Damien Cook from the St. George Illawarra Dragons, moving over there to a new club, the experienced guy. Sounds like he is going to start despite my best efforts to try and convince you guys otherwise. It looks like he is going to start in that number 9 jersey with Little coming off the bench. I would go the other way just because it works so well for a lot of other teams. You get that hooker that can just bash out the first 20 minutes, and that's Little to a T. But he's also got a bit of X factor about him too, Little, which sort of breaks the mold there a little bit. And I guess it works if you do bring Little on with a bit of X factor. But when you're talking about who's more zippy, who has more X factor, it is probably Cook. So again, I'd probably go with Cook off the bench, but it sounds like they're going with him starting and then with obviously Little coming off the bench. I imagine Cook could go into that roaming role, that roaming lockwood role we saw at the end of the year for South Sydney, which I really loved. I thought that he suited that role well. And I also think that you can see Little in that role too. A bit of a bigger body, can handle it defensively through the middle. Maybe that's the sort of rotation similar to Queensland with Hunt and Grant that you see here for St. George. Another honourable mention is Reid Marnie. I think the Bulldogs are going to go well this year, and he's going to be a big part of that there in the number 9 jersey. Really crafty. I think that, obviously temper-wise, he's got to manage that a little bit better. But I do think that Reid Marnie, people look at his on-field discretions and they don't look at how well he's actually playing on the field and how good he actually is as a number 9 in this competition. So definitely have cast your eyes on Reid Marnie this year. Take a look at the footy that he's actually playing on the field rather than those on-field push and shove discretions. And then for me, and look, obviously we haven't been talking about this guy as a hooker lately, but certainly going into the back end or mid part of this year, we'll certainly be talking more about him in the number 9 role. Ben Hunt. I'm really looking forward to Ben Hunt and seeing how he goes there in the number 9 while we get to that midpoint of the season, that round 9-10 sort of stage where Ezra Mann walks back into this side, Adam Reynolds walks back into this side. You get Ben Hunt moving into that number 9 role. Keen to see how he goes. I think he could be one of the better 9s in the competition if he wanted to be. He's just so crafty and he hasn't been stuck in that number 7, but he's been playing number 7 for a number of years, whereas if he was playing 9 for those number of years, he'd probably be the best 9 or at least one of the informed 9s in the competition. He is so good in that position. He's played very well there in international and origin stages. I think that Ben Hunt, getting him for what is most of a year in the number 9 role, it's very exciting in my opinion. Obviously, need to watch Blake Moser and see how he goes as well. Obviously, was promised to start by this year in his contract, so definitely going to be interesting to see how they handle that, the Brisbane Broncos. But Ben Hunt, form-wise, moving into that hooker role, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he goes there. Let's quickly go through the locks because I really do have to get going for this interview. Obviously, will be announced on the podcast a little bit later today, so I can't really say who it's going to be. But let's get through these lock forwards so I can get there on time. Top 5 lock forwards by the end of 2025. Let's get into it. Kurt Mann. I've got Kurt Mann at number 5. Really love Kurt Mann. I think that, this more versatile and mobile lock forward, it's becoming more and more popular. You've got Kurt Mann, Reuben Cotter, Dylan Walker, Connor Watson, these sort of guys really changing the game in that regard with that with that lock forward role. Looking forward to seeing how Kurt Mann goes. I think that he is going to have a real strong season for the Dogs, and if they do go as well as they did last year or better, he's going to certainly be a big part of that in that 13 jersey. I think he's locked that down unless there's injury for the full season, and he's a smoky for Origin football in my opinion. I think if they want to go for a different style of play, and that magical number 17 that Billy Slater has shown to love in the past, I think that Kurt Mann is a real sniff to make that side in jersey number 17 for Queensland. Number 4, I've got Reuben Cotter. I've got Reuben Cotter there in number 4. I think that he, again, we talk about this mobile lock forward and how it's becoming popular in our competition. He's certainly been up there with the form lock forwards and sort of underlooked, obviously, with guys like the guys that are ahead of him, which we'll get to in a second. But, Reuben Cotter for me, he's definitely there in number 4. Really strong defender as well, and has really made that move work well for him. Obviously, coming through grade as a hooker, and being more of a hooker, struggling to crack first grade as a hooker, moving into lock and absolutely killing it and being one of the better locks in the competition, playing Origin in that position and in the back row as well. He's certainly killed it in that regard, and that change of position has seemed to have worked well for him for a number of years now. Let's get into the last 3. Paddy Carrigan. I love Paddy Carrigan. He's always going to be in this list. He's my number 3. I think he's moving into the front row, which could really shamble this list. But I think that he will certainly be one of the better front rowers if he's in the front row. He's going to be one of the better lock forwards if he's at lock. So, Paddy Carrigan, he's in this list currently. If he is in the front row, that obviously shambles things. But one of these honourable mentions might grab a spot there in his place if he does move into that front row category. Cameron Murray, I've got him at number 2. I think that he's in for a real strong season with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I think the Rabbitohs are in for that big year this season. Campbell Graham returning, obviously got an injury for the opening rounds, which is really shithouse. But, obviously going into the latter part of the year, and even without Campbell Graham in that side, they've got a really strong outfit this season, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Cam Murray handles that, how he handles his body as well. Obviously had a few injuries last year. Just having a full season of Cam Murray, can't wait for it. I think he's heading for a big season. And then Isaiah Yeo, he's always going to be the number 1. Such a strong player, really, really good work ethic. And I think that he is in for a big season, Isaiah Yeo, again with the Penrith Panthers. He is the best lock in the competition. He has been for some time. Going into the honourable mentions, the big one for me is Trent Liero from the Melbourne Storm. I think that full season again in lock forward, he will play Origin. It looks like Billy Slater is very, very keen on him. I'm quite keen on him, especially with the football that he played at the back end of the year. I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes this season, but certainly a guy that could play State of Origin football in 2025. Max Psychoplath, again, in that conversation of Origin, I think that him and Kurt Mann will be fighting for jersey 17. I'd rather have Kurt Mann or Max Plath at jersey 17. Probably Kurt Mann over Max Plath too. Over Kalen Ponga or a Reece Walsh on the bench. I just think that jersey 17, it worked one game for Selwyn Cobbo. It just didn't work after that. And as soon as Kalen Ponga came onto the field in game 3, they got towered up on that edge and they really targeted him. So I don't think it works well. I think that you do need to have one of these more mobile lock forwards in that sort of role. And Kurt Mann, for me, is definitely a guy that I would heavily consider playing in that jersey 17 role, because he can literally play from 1 to 13 and do a really good job there. So, Max Plath, going back to Max Plath, I think that he's in for a big year. And look, if I'm wrong and he makes Origin, I've just got a little bit of concern around his size. But if I am wrong and he plays Origin and he can handle it, it'd be egg all over my face, that's for sure. Cam McInnes. I've got Cam McInnes here as well. I think that the Sharks, as I said, they're in for a big year. I think that he can have a really strong season for them, and I can't wait to see how he comes into this year mentally. Obviously, one of the older lock forwards in the competition now as well, but he certainly fits that more mobile lock forward role, quick play the balls, leg speed. I'm looking forward to seeing how Cam McInnes handles it this year, and if he can really keep up with this fast style of play of the Nico Hines moving into that hybrid role. I think that they are going to play a bit of a faster game of footy, and Cam McInnes, I think, is going to be a big part of that there in jersey number 13. There you go, guys. That is wrapping up our ranking series. We've got all the other episodes live on the YouTube and the Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So make sure you go ahead and stay tuned for that. Season preview series begins tomorrow. Cast Patrol, Paracave, Dan Nilso. A few more guests to come. One more guest, I believe, is in the charity match. The other two, one is another super coach. So it says 2 super coaches. So that's going to be really good for more of an analytical sort of preview for teams. But I've also got another podcast. He was a bit of an up-and-comer, posting some really good content, and he is going to be really exciting to have on and just have a yarn with him. I think that he's definitely going to be one of the better pages. Just news-wise, he always seems to stay on top of things as well. Definitely a guy that I'm excited to have on, and just keen to get a little bit more of that micro exposure here and there as well, getting a few pages that aren't so well known. That was sort of the goal initially heading into this season preview series, but sort of wanted to get a few guys on. Had no excuses to have them on the podcast, and very happy that I've had the guys that I've had on during this season preview series, like Neil So, like Mick and Jimmy from the Cast Patrol. It's been really a pleasure to have these sort of guys on and have that yarn with them as well. So, look, keen to get stuck into that season preview series, and that's all going to be on the YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to them all. Any questions rugby league related, throw them in the comment section below. We'll get to literally all of them. Pretty good in that regard, going through the YouTube comments. Spotify comments, Apple Podcasts, I need to get into those as well. So make sure you leave some questions for me in there. Who knows, you might get a mention on the podcast. So stay tuned for all of that. All the exclusive stuff that isn't on the YouTube, it's all on the Spotify, Apple Podcast. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one.